Myself, Corey Colquist is not here. Valerie Roulette,
Here.
Samuel Clark,
Here.
Shannon Sweeney Jorgensen, not here. Beth Wensloff,
Here.
Buckley Simmons, and Mr. Geisler.
Present.
Thank you very much, everybody. Second on this evening's agenda is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion for that, please?
So move. Wenslow.
Thank you, Beth. Can we get a second?
Sam Clark with a second.
Take your pick there, Eric. Thank you very much, Samuel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next up is the approval of the minutes from the March 16th, 2021 regular meeting. Does anybody have any comments, or otherwise we can look for a motion on that as well?
If typos don't count, I make a motion to accept.
Thank you, Beth. Can we get a second?
Okay, I'll
Sam
try
Clark,
it
I
again.
second.
I think Valerie got in first there.
Yeah, we'll choose Valerie on this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. Up next, number 4 is public discussion. Eric, is there anything that's on the agenda this evening that was not before us?
No, I have not had any other notices from the public. I do know that a Mr. Bob Saunders is online with us this evening. I don't know if you're here for a specific item or not, sir.
I am. We are Heiner's next door neighbors, and they are wanting to put a flag lot in. We just have a couple concerns is all.
Well,
Sure.
we'll get to that in just a minute, sir.
Sure.
Okay, not hearing any, we'll move on from the open forum of the public discussion. And we'll move on to number 5, which is public hearings this evening. Number 1 is an application by Brad and Jackie Johnson for a subdivision to create a 136-foot wide parcel of 1 acre and a 4.03 acre lot, accessed by the way of a flag lot of 30 foot in width at 5233 Maple Grove Road. This property is located in an R3 zoning district. Eric, what do you have for us on this one this evening?
Well, great. First question is, can you see the screen that I have up? I have a location map.
No, I see your Windows screen.
Okay.
Windows location map is highlighted, but we don't see a map.
Double click.
All right. Try this one more time. Apologize for that. Maybe what I'll do is we'll just ask the P&Z members to go to their packets then. What this is before us, it's a flag lot application by Brad and Jackie Johnson to subdivide a 5-acre lot into a new flag lot. The property is located at 5233 Maple Grove Road, which is about 2 or 3 lots to the east of the Fickner Field complex. The property is located in an R3 zoning district. Next, if I could have you go to the drawing that is part of that application. It shows how the proposed flag lot is going to be subdivided. What it is proposing is basically the parent lot has the existing home and a garage as well as a shed on that property. The applicant is proposing to have that lot approximately 36 feet by 320 feet for 1 acre in size. The flag lot would draw access from Maple Grove Road with the driveway located on the west side of the property. The pole portion that contains the driveway is proposed at 30-foot width by 320 feet in length. And with the subsequent flag portion or the building portion of the lot located behind that, which is 4.03 acres. There are some wetlands at the extreme north end of this property, but the building pad area does appear to be free of wetlands and is unencumbered that way. This application does meet the flag lot ordinance as far as subdivisions go. It has a minimum of the 30-foot entryway and is less than the maximum 500 feet allowed for that pole portion or the driveway portion. This property would be connected to city sewer and water located in Maple Grove Road. And the applicant would be required to coordinate with St. Louis County on a new curb cut on Maple Grove Road to access this property. It's my understanding that the applicant more than likely would, these plans to subdivide this property and potentially sell this newly created lot as a building parcel to the public that way. The existing home, his plans are generally to keep that as a rental property. This applicant does have a few rental properties both in Hermantown and Duluth. He primarily rents to people involved in the Air National Guard, of which the applicant is a member of the Air National Guard. I don't believe, unfortunately, that the applicant is with us this evening. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that the commission members may have.
Eric, I guess I just have one. Looks like the neighboring lot is split almost identically.
That is correct. Yes, that was actually done by the Johnsons as well about a year ago.
Okay. And then I don't remember from a year ago, is there anything that had to do with, looks like the utility easement running through the back portion of the lot? Is there a power line that runs through there though?
Yes, thank you. That's the power line, the extreme north end of the property that way. So everything in this, my conversations is that they don't plan on being anywhere near that portion of it, that they would utilize basically that front 100 feet or so of this newly created lot for the building pad.
Just for my future knowledge of trying to make this simpler in the future, if they were to cross that power line, would they need access or, granted access to, put a shed or whatever it is on the northern half of that lot to cross the power line easement?
I'm not quite up on the agreements between power companies and private properties that way. I believe, at least in other ones like the city has, that you still have the property owner still has the ability to cross it, right of access, etc. You cannot build structures underneath the power lines that way. If you need to have a paved surface of such, I mean, you typically can have those, but like I said, no structures underneath that, those power lines or within that easement.
Gotcha. Thank you. Those were all my only questions. Commission members, any questions for Eric other than the ones I asked?
Well, my only concern was how close that driveway was to the adjoining property, but being they own the adjoining property, I guess they're fine with it.
Sam, Beth, any questions this evening?
Sam Clark, no questions.
Beth Winslow knows it's being done all over, so.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll open up the floor to a public hearing at 7:11. Is there anybody out there that would like to speak on 5A this evening?
I'm here, but you can't hear me, I don't think.
I can hear you. Are you here for the Johnson one or the Heiner one?
The Johnson.
Okay. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, my name is Brad Johnson. My address is 4958 Maple Grove Road, and I am the owner of 5233 Maple Grove Road. The lot's being discussed for the split.
Hi, Brad. Have you heard our conversation this evening so far?
I have heard the whole conversation. Thank you very much for putting that together. I really appreciate it. All the work that was done on it. I don't know who did all the work. I'm guessing Eric did some of it and probably most of it. So I do appreciate that. So I'd like to talk a little bit on it. I think there's a great opportunity on this lot to expand our population of Hermantown and add some living space for families that I offer housing to. Most of the families that I deal with have a hard time finding 3, 4, and 5 bedroom homes in our community. We do offer housing in Duluth with those kind of homes, but I think more people are attracted to Hermantown just because of the great job that you people have done. I don't know if it's the hockey culture or just the great living that we have, but we hear a lot that they just cannot find housing. So we're trying to expand. I don't know if we're gonna sell that lot, or if we're just gonna hold it and build a home for other families coming through the area. We do a lot with medical too. We have a lot of people coming to our community that are only planning on staying 2 or 3 years. And so they make great customers for us, and we offer them the option not to have to buy, making their life a lot easier. So if you guys would consider approving this, it would be greatly appreciated, not just by us, but by future families in our neighborhood. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Brad. Commission members, any questions for Brad this evening? Not hearing any, I'll close the public comment period at 7:14 this evening. Commission members, any other questions for Eric or Brad? If not, I would look for a motion on 5A this evening.
Valerie, I would move to approve 5A.
Thank you very much. We have a first. Can we get a second, please?
I will second Beth Winslow.
Thank you, Beth. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Not hearing any, the motion passes. Thank you very much on 5A. Moving forward, we've got 5B. It's an application by Heather Heiner for a subdivision to create a 120-foot wide parcel of 0.52 acres and a 3.0 acre lot, accessed by the way of a flag lot of 30 foot in width at 5273 Arrowhead Road. The property is located in an R3 zoning district. Eric, what do you have for us on this one?
I apologize if you see me trying to get my screen up here again, but
We've got it this time.
Yep.
oh, now you can see this. That's usually how it works, isn't it? Let me see if I can get rid of that. Wow. I'm failing this evening, unfortunately. Well, let's try to run with what I have here. So once again, this is another flag lot application before us. This property is located at 5273 Arrowhead Road. This is an existing lot that the property owner is proposing to subdivide once again into a flag lot. The property has dimensions of 150 feet by 1,024 feet. There's currently a single family home and 2 accessory structures which are located on the property. The applicant is proposing to create a flag lot that would be along the western border of that existing property. Similar to the one that we just heard, it would be accessed by way of a 30-foot pole or the driveway section that would connect to Arrowhead Road. And in this case, it'd be a distance of 190 feet, with the flag portion behind that being approximately 150 by 834 feet. The proposed sizes for the 2 lots would be 0.52 acres for that parent lot where the home and the accessory structures are. And with the parcel located behind it, that flag lot, that would be 3 acres in size. Similar once again to the previous one, the applicant would hook into public utilities located in Arrowhead Road. Those public utilities would progress up that flag lot, that pole portion, and then access the home behind it that way. In regards to wetlands on site, there's some once again at the extreme north end of the property that don't anticipate having an issue associated with those with the building pad. Likewise, I know for sure that the applicant was not able to join us here. They had a prior commitment, unfortunately. So I will attempt to answer any other questions from the commission members.
Commission members, any questions for Eric this evening on 5B?
Valerie, just wondering, the current building or the current lot, the smaller lot, the 0.52, that would be on city water and sewer as well, I'm assuming?
Yes, that is correct.
Is that one existing?
Mhm.
It's an existing home. I believe it's, I think it may be a Jackson home, to tell you the truth, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Then I have no objection.
Does anybody know if they've sold all the lots in that neighborhood next door?
No, they haven't.
Yeah, I believe there's a home going up right now. I want to say it's on potentially lot 2 or lot 3, but there are at least 2 or 3 at a minimum left in there still.
Okay. Okay, commission members, any other questions for Eric before we open it up for public comment?
No.
Not seeing any, we'll open up 5B for public comment at 7:19. Is there anybody out there that would like to speak with us this evening? If so, please give your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Bob Saunders. I am married to Karen Harmon. We live at 5279 West Arrowhead Road, and we are Heiner's next door neighbors.
Hi there, how are you this evening?
Pretty good. There are 3 homes in the other subdivision, and the third one is going up now. The other ones have been there for about a year or so. Just so you had the current information on it. We're not concerned about the house or the flag lot at all. Heather has got a very good reputation for design. I'm sure it'll be a beautiful house. We do have some concerns about the application, however. The map drawn by LHB shows a 30-foot driveway placed immediately adjacent to the survey property line of our lot at 5279, leaving 5273 Arrowhead Road with a lot fronting 120 feet. In the findings presented by Hermantown Planning Commission, page 2.4, it is stated that the driveway shall be set back 10 feet from the property line. Page 3.4 states that the applicant must submit plans which show the driveway meets setback requirements of the city. Survey map issued by LHB shows the driveway parcel starting at the established survey boundary without the 10-foot setback as required by the city. So which plan will be followed? The one that LHB presents or the one that the city requires? If the setback is required, the existing lot fronting on Arrowhead Road will become a 110-foot lot instead of a 120-foot, and that's still allowed by the city, but it would be an error according to the LHB drawings. And then concerning another issue, witness storm water runoff fees. Roads and driveways are considered impervious surface, which allow runoff. The area for the new driveway and the lot has in excess of 20 large mature trees, anywhere from 8 to probably 30 inches in diameter. And the largest are very old trees, probably when the Jackson houses were built. There is also significant undergrowth and countless number of saplings to trees that are 3 or 4 inches in diameter along the length of where the driveway will go. Removing the undergrowth and mature trees will no doubt increase water runoff significantly. Arrowhead Road, as we know, has got a lot of hills. We're kind of at the bottom of the hill immediately before Thilke Drive. I think the Heiner home is about 4 feet higher than ours on the lot elevation, just the way it was 90 some years ago. The proposed building site with the clearing lot is probably, I'm going to guess, 15 to 18 feet higher than our lot on the north side. Water is always going to run downhill, especially with an impervious driveway. What steps, if any, are going to be required to prevent additional runoff from affecting our property, our garage, and our house? The garage that we're talking about, the original garage built in the 30s, my wife had restored probably 18 years ago. She could have built a new garage for what she's a preservationist of sort, yeah. But the slab is at ground level. And you get a lot more water, and these lots are, even if they're not wetlands, the soil is always wet. So we're really concerned about runoff water. And we actually believe that that can easily be addressed in construction. We just would like it to be set up for that. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. We appreciate everything you've done to make this a public meeting. Thanks.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you very much. Eric, do we have to undertake any of that this evening when we're just approving a lot split essentially, and we're not looking at the actual construction of stuff, or is that something we should tackle this evening?
Well, actually, if I could just clarify and maybe answer the gentleman's question, is that drawing that you see, that's actually the plat associated with this. That 30-foot width is the actual, what we call the pole portion of the lot, and the driveway will be located within that 30 feet. So that's not a driveway that you're seeing. That's actually basically the touchdown point onto Arrowhead Road that is utilized for these flag lots. 30.
Go ahead.
Yep, 30 feet is the minimum distance per the ordinance, and that's what they're showing. So what they would do then is have a driveway 10 feet from that. Basically, they would center a driveway within that 30 foot with the 10 feet for sure meeting on your side of the property on that west side is how that would work out.
Here's what I don't understand and I'm not clear on. So along the property line between that exists already between us and Heiser's, there has to be a 10-foot setback, correct?
Yes, there will be a 10-foot. Each residential homes have a minimum of a 10-foot setback from a side property line.
Correct.
Yes.
So then does the 30-foot driveway start at the edge of that 10 feet or at the beginning of that 10 feet?
No, it starts at the property line. That's where the 30 feet is.
So the driveway doesn't have to be 30 feet wide. It would in fact be 20 feet wide, correct?
No, what you're just seeing, this is just a plat plan. This is not the driveway. This is strictly.
I'm looking at the map that LHB provided, not the.
Yes, that's the one in the packet. That's correct. Yes, that's just the subdivision of the land. That is not a driveway. So the driveway would take place within that 30-foot parcel that you see per that LHB drawing. That is not the driveway.
I'm not trying to be difficult, okay?
No.
The map shows with what you're telling me, what I'm understanding anyway, is that shows a 30-foot width. And the driveway by city regulation has to be 30 feet wide. And there has to be a 10-foot setback. That's the way I read the notes on the paper. Page 3 line or subpoint 4 says there's supposed to be a 10-foot setback. So it's confusing because the drawing that LHB provides shows 130-foot starting at the property line, and a 30-foot driveway is required with a 10-foot setback. So 30 plus 10 to me anyway equals 40. That's what I'm not understanding.
I don't believe it requires a 30-foot driveway, a 30-foot wide driveway. That's just the pole section of the new lot that's being formed has to be 30 feet wide, and the driveway has to be within those 30 feet, 10 feet off of your property line.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yep.
Does the city have a requirement as to the width of driveways for emergency equipment to go through?
We typically try to have a minimum of an 8 to 10 foot wide driveway. But
that's all? Okay.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
You answered a lot of questions. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, sir.
Yeah,
Eric, this is John. Does the driveway have a setback?
Yes, the driveway has a 10-foot setback.
And as well as any buildings beyond would have a 10-foot setback?
Yes, exactly. The city views the driveway as a structure in this case.
So the driveway in essence can only be 10 feet wide, 10 feet setback on each side?
Correct.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right.
That makes a ton of sense. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate that.
You're very welcome, sir. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Hey, have a great night. Stay safe, folks.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else want to speak on this in the public hearing portion of the meeting?
So
Not
the
here.
other concerns Mr. Saunders had regarding the impervious surface and the elevation, is that something that's taken up with the building permit then?
Yes, when we get the application, it'll show the location of a house pad, the location of the driveway. And then we look at it as well from the water standpoint. And if there needs to be a side yard swale to be able to direct water away from the property lines, that we look at that as well.
Good.
Right. We're looking at
I
just
had
splitting the
forgotten
lot this
completely.
evening.
I had forgotten completely about that, so thank you, Valerie.
Well, nobody likes surprises, you know, so it's better to look at these items ahead of time.
Well, thanks a bunch, everybody. It's really appreciated.
Thank you again, sir. We're going to close the public hearing portion of this meeting at 7:28 PM. Commission members, any other questions for anybody on this application this evening to do a lot split? Not hearing any, I look for a motion on 5B this evening. It's an application by Heather Heiner to do a lot split.
I will make the motion then, Beth Winsoff.
Thank you, Beth. With a first, can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you,
Valerie,
Valerie. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Not hearing any, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to number 6, continuing business. Looks like we're going to have continued discussion of the PUD study.
Yes, exactly. And I'm going to give it one more opportunity to attempt to share my screen. And I'm going to apologize in advance because I think I'm going to fail again. So earlier today, I sent over a email that had about memo from the ARDC, generally recapping what had been discussed a couple weeks ago at our meeting. And what I really want to try to do is keep this issue in the forefront for everybody involved, that want to keep this moving along. And what I'd really like to do as well is have another work session approximately 2 weeks from now before that other May meeting that we have for planning and zoning. Because it would really, at least a staff goal, that when we hit our May meeting for planning and zoning, that we're able to hold a public hearing at that point based on the study that the ARDC has been doing. So my hope or my goal is to have a work session again in 2 weeks' time, have ARDC present to us much more detailed information based on our discussion that we had a couple weeks ago as well, in order to help them fine tune their study that would be then presented to the planning and zoning as well as a public forum at that point. So once again, this document's just outlining really a number of the items that we discussed and some of the items that the ARDC is using as they're crafting this study and this document that way. I believe, I think all of you were able to join us at that meeting. I know I've had conversations with Mr. Peterson as well on it. I think we've had some really good input and some direction. Like I said, just trying to still keep an open dialogue on this whole process so we can keep this as timely as possible. So really at this point, if there's any other questions or comments that the members may have on what they've heard to date so far during this study, or at least these presentations, I'd be happy to attempt to answer any of those questions or engage in a discussion.
I personally don't have any questions right now.
my only question is how many, do we have some applicants on hold right now, or is this still, the others have gone away and so this is just for the future?
I've been discussing the process with the applicant who had been before us last October, and just keeping him appraised of the process and where we are in the time frame. He has not indicated any sort of an immediate application for it, but he's just curious that it's moving along through the process. So the answer to your question is no, I don't believe we're holding anybody up, but in the interest of being able to still conduct business and move projects forward, that we're still trying to work with this June, July timeframe to get it wrapped up, both from a planning and zoning as well as a city council standpoint.
I'm glad to hear that. I just wondered if there was somebody waiting in the wings. Okay.
Sure.
This Valerie, I just have, if you could explain item D under number 2, the approach to regulating different PUD categories. Letter D, you talk about single family, multifamily, or both with or without a change in density. Is there any kind of limitations there at all? I mean, multifamily, are we talking a twin home or are we talking apartment building?
Well, really what, at least in my conversations with the ARDC, is I think we're trying to get away from the specific language of apartment buildings and just building this more off of the idea of density and numbers of units per acre. Because there are so many different housing products out there, whether they're twins, threes, fourplexes, et cetera, that, that we think that we can start at least defining some development by having some sort of a density identified, and that could be through the way of density bonuses, different stipulations to and how many units per acre you could actually get. Some things that we've been kicking around is the more density that you're looking for, the greater of common open space in the development would be required. And when I say open space, that's the usable open space, not the wetlands, not the power line corridors, things like that. You know, you're getting the idea of pocket parks, trail systems, things like that. So if a person wanted to get up to a potentially a 4 times density multiplier, that in turn they would be providing X percent of their site for this usable green space throughout it.
Okay.
And to date, I mean, that number has not been identified, but that's really what we're trying to look at. I believe in at least my discussions from other staff members and with some of you as well, that there seems to be a pretty common thread of a height of 35 feet throughout this district, because that's in keeping with other residential structures throughout it. Currently, that is our maximum height within the R3 zoning district, albeit it's measured to the midpoint of the roof structure as opposed to the peak of the roof that way, just so people are aware that way. So we can at least keep the consistency from a height standpoint, you know, throughout the development that way, as well as this PUD process. Kind of a roundabout answer for you, Valerie.
Yep. That, you know, it's a work in progress, right? That's good. Thank you very much.
I've been
Hey,
accused. Yes, sir.
Eric, I have a question on that height restriction or height limit. The Arbors project that is being proposed with underground parking and 3 levels above, does that fit within the 35 feet?
I believe that they came in about, I think that one was coming in at about 42 feet, John.
Okay,
Now that, since it had been approved, that would still fall under previous
Yeah.
approved projects that way.
okay. So yeah, a 2-story, 35 feet is probably going to be a 2-story home, not a 3, you know, you're not going to get 3 stories in 35 feet. Okay, sounds good.
Well, great. Well, no, thank you. I guess I'd just like to get your thoughts or availability if we try to do a work session here in a couple weeks' time. Is that something that generally support from the group?
I'm all
For
for
sure.
that. I think it's important.
Yep.
Well, great. What I'll do then is I'll send out a meeting invite. Maybe let's just plan for the Tuesday night again. I think that 5 o'clock generally worked pretty well for people. Is that continues to be a true statement?
Mhm.
Okay. So I guess let's tentatively say, yeah, May 4th at 5 p.m. But I'll send out a meeting invite here within the next day or so, just to get that on everyone's calendars. So thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Number 7 this evening is new business. We have something from the airport custom zoning discussion.
And I'm going to try to give my way one last attempt here. Stop sharing. So I apologize. We had a PowerPoint presentation for this that Mr. Mulder had presented last evening. But if some of you recall that had been sitting on planning and zoning within the past 18 months, and we do have a couple new members here, the airport, by way of the Joint Airport Zoning Board, is pursuing what's called custom airport zoning. Right now, there's 3 existing safety zones associated with the airport. There's what's known as a Zone A, which is primarily right outside of the runways, and that's meant for, they like to say, cows and cars. It's grassy areas, no homes, no businesses, etc. Next falls into the B zone. In the B zone, there are restrictions as far as the size of a property, which is currently, I believe, 2.5 acre minimum lot size, as well as having stipulations on how many people can either reside or utilize that structure on a per acreage basis. And right now, that's 15 people per acre can utilize some sort of a business structure, et cetera, within that. So what they're trying to avoid is number of the gathering type of areas. You get into churches, you get into some recreation facilities, et cetera, that way. And then lastly, there's the C zone, which is the largest of the safety zones. The only restrictions associated with that is the actual height of structures in their relationship to the airport runway elevation. The city of Hermantown is a little bit different. We have a number of businesses off of what's called runway 3 that reside within the B safety zone. Those are Skyline Bowl, the Lakes Theater, Harley Davidson, etc. Those businesses actually reside in a B zone, but with what's called C zone exceptions. So they're able to exist, they're able to continue and work and expand within that existing zoning the way it is that way. So as part of this custom zoning, that allows for each community to set their own safety zones associated with these runways. JASB, along with their work, and JASB is a Joint Airport Zoning Board, has worked with the different communities surrounding us, Duluth, ourselves, Rice Lake, Kenosha Township. They're all part of this board, St. Louis County as well. And as part of the custom zoning, we're looking to essentially keep the status quo on what's called runway 9. That's a runway that generally runs east-west. We have, well, the 3 zones over there. In this case, they're going to be renamed zones 1, 2, and 3. What we were looking at more from a custom zoning standpoint was the elimination of that B zone off of the runway 3. So what would happen is you would have the A zone that exists essentially behind Gordy's in that area there. And then everything from Gordy's running to the south would then be in what's called the 3 zone, or essentially the C zone. There is no in-between B or 2 zone associated with it. That custom zoning proposal was provided to the MnDOT, who had reviewed that. The application went in last November, and they sent back a letter early part of February stating at that point that they were not accepting those proposed changes. JASB representatives have had the opportunity to meet with MnDOT to discuss that further, to understand their concerns and look at ways to keep moving forward with the custom zoning. As part of that discussion with MnDOT, which has happened within the last few weeks, MnDOT is recommending that a zone 2 in some sort of fashion does continue to happen off that runway 3. What they're proposing, or at least recommending, that it's not as strict as what had currently been known as. Their primary concern is trying to limit vulnerable populations, i.e., people in hospitals, looking at some maybe adult care facilities, potentially daycare type of facilities, looking at schools. There had been initially some conversations about churches, synagogues, etc. that way. That what MnDOT is recommending is that, once again, some portion of land that the city can designate off of runway 3 would have this zone that would restrict those type of uses, and those would be new uses. So that's one thing that we are starting to look at from a staff standpoint. We had a discussion with City Council about this last night as well. There's concern about churches and what really is defined as churches that way. That if the city was to concur with these type of recommendations, that they would not have churches as part of that language. Once again, things like medical or dental clinics would be allowed. What they're looking at is vulnerable populations, places that people do not have really a choice or ability to get in and out of readily. Bowling alleys, theaters, etc. would continue to be allowed within that zone, both as an existing condition as well as future conditions here as well. What the ordinance or any changes would just be on new developments within the future. So what we're anticipating is having some more conversation, not only from the planning and zoning, but also staff and city council on how we move forward on this. Do we continue to work under these MnDOT recommendations and say, yes, we can limit or exclude a certain portion of these uses, i.e., once again, the vulnerable populations? Do we say no? Do we keep the status quo and say that we really prefer to continue just to work with the custom zoning, trying to have a zone 1 and 3 and not that in-between zone? Or do you go as far as creating an entirely new zoning district that would stretch along some portion of Highway 53 that would then exclude those vulnerable type of uses? There's some general feedback that this new zoning district would not really accomplish what we're trying to. It would be a little bit more cumbersome and a little bit more restrictive as property and land develops. The benefit or the benefit of an actual zoning district is it could limit what could be perceived as taking procedures from a land use standpoint. Because if it's specific to zoning and not specific to the airport, you can regulate that. By keeping it within the existing B area that we have now, it does open up the city a little bit more for some potential taking. There's some general comfort level with that, but that's just something that we as a city have to know and be able to be comfortable with moving forward. So as I said, this is going to continue to come forward and be discussed. Both myself and Mr. Geisler sit on this JASB board. We have both been tasked with at least bringing some information back to JASB by May 6th on how the city plans on trying to move forward with this. What we're kind of perceiving as a timeline is we're going to have some further discussion at the city council on May 3rd for this. At that point, staff anticipates seeing direction or getting direction from city council on how to move forward. What the city or what staff would then do would be to revise our zoning ordinances to reflect these potential exclusions. And that would then be required to go through the city process. It would come before planning and zoning, more than likely at our June meeting, and then would come before city council in their July meetings. That would require both a first and a second reading with any sort of amendment or ordinance change that way. So once again, this is more to kind of keep you aware of the discussions that we've been hearing from the JASB and MnDOT. Try to get your initial thoughts on it. Once again, I apologize for the lack of graphics, but would like to maybe hear some of your thoughts that way as we're looking at potentially a new zoning ordinance that would restrict new uses of these vulnerable populations within a set area within the city. And that area generally extends from Miller Trunk Highway down to Arrowhead Road, and then eastward more or less to about where Ridgewood Apartments is, and then westward approximately 500 or 600 feet as you're moving down towards Arrowhead. So it's essentially a small trapezoid area that this would be in, and that would mirror the existing what's known as a B zone today.
Eric, it doesn't do any good for tonight, but maybe you could email that PowerPoint presentation out to all. That would help everybody visualize that trapezoid shape that we're talking about.
Yes, definitely so. And then what we could probably do as well is include this on that work session that we're going to have in a couple weeks here also.
I
But
think
that
it'd be good to, if we could get more of the members, you know, if we got, what, 3 missing tonight, if we could get everybody tuned in on that. The other thing that, and Beth in the real estate business probably knows this better than anybody about a taking, but as a, for instance, and we'll use Mr. Colquist as an example, they've had that bowling alley in their family forever, but let's just say bowling goes away. And now we put a restriction of you can't have a hospital there. And the Colquists come and say, well, gee, my bowling alley isn't going to work, but St. Luke's wants to build a hospital here, but you're not going to allow me that. So there's a value to that. I'm going to sue you, the city, because of that. You've taken that ability for me to build a hospital there. Or, you know, the better example probably is a movie theater, because movie theaters probably will be a thing of the past at some point. And, you know, what are they going to do with that big box, you know? So, yeah, that's the danger of a taking is if we place the zoning restriction on that property.
And that corridor actually is, already has a lot of medical use to it, that I can see that being more adult care or something. So that's concerning to me, especially overseeing a big chunk of this parcel in my management. That's a little scary.
This Valerie, Mr. Geisler, what's the general feeling of the council? Can you share any of that? What you know, you guys have talked about amongst yourself?
Yeah, while I maybe scared everybody with this taking, the city attorney has told everybody it's probably not a big issue. It has happened in Rochester with a similar type of a zoning amendment, and there were some lawsuits in this with the Rochester airport. But the council of the 3 options that Eric talked about, the council kind of likes the best one of putting some restrictions on this zone of the vulnerable population, hospital, adult care. You know, the largest gathering of assemblies, the movie theater, the bowling alley would still be allowed. And a clinic, you know, there's in the Gordy's building, there is a chiropractic clinic, things like that. So you've already got some clinics in there. You got chiropractor in the Skyline building as well.
We have dentists in the Woodridge building.
That's
and
right.
That's a big
Yep.
center there.
Yep.
Well, and having lived on Park Point for many, many years, there was an issue with the zoning down there between some property just down near the bend, and the city kept changing the zoning on it to the detriment of the property owner. So I can see what you're saying. I can see that could be an issue. You hate to give up any flexibility, and because it might come back and bite you in the end.
Sam Clark here, I guess, my only very quickly, it doesn't have to be very long-winded, but is there any precedent for the concern with the zoning, how it currently is? And I guess I'm out of curiosity, why is MnDOT, of all parties, kind of the driving force?
MnDOT Aeronautics, they govern the zoning districts of the airport, MnDOT Aeronautics.
Okay, it's not the Minnesota Department of Transportation.
It is it's their aeronautics division of MnDOT.
Okay,
Yeah, I didn't realize that there was such an entity until I was on the JASB board. So yeah, it's quite a big department, actually. They govern all of the safety of the airports throughout Minnesota.
that makes sense. And then I guess, is there a precedent for the concern? I mean, have there been issues, or is this kind of coming out of left field?
Well, the whole thing is that this zone for Hermantown has always been in what they've called kind of a custom zone. It hasn't fit within the MnDOT regulated zones, but now MnDOT Aeronautics has changed that each airport can do custom zoning. So the airport, JASB, has spent lots of money with consultants and engineers to recreate this zoning of the entire airport. It's not just Hermantown, it's all of the other municipalities, Rice Lake, Duluth, Kenosha Township. And that's why all of this has come about, is that the airport has requested this custom zoning. It only has been around for a year. We're the second ones to request it. Only, I believe it was Lake Elmo Airport, which is a much smaller airport, received approval on their custom zoning. So this is a brand new thing. And so MnDOT Aeronautics has come back to us and said, we'd really like to see Hermantown and Rice Lake put some restrictions on the end of the runways for this vulnerable population.
So I guess is the risk then to Hermantown that if a plane tries to take off and crashes, that we're now liable because we changed the zoning?
No, the explanation that I was saying is that we would be taking the rights of a property owner by saying you can't any longer build a hospital, a school, an adult care facility in that property.
Yeah, but I get that part. I guess, is it if you built a hospital there and a plane happened to crash into it? I guess I just don't understand what we need to take a zoning restrict. I get I get not building a skyscraper or something next to a runway, but why would you not be able to build a movie theater or Skyline bowling alley is right now? I mean,
Well,
what's the risk, I guess, or what is MnDOT? What's their concern? This is just more of trying to understand basically what.
Yeah, I don't know, Eric, what's your thoughts on that?
The essentially what and there's companies such as RS&H, which the JASB and the airport is engaged for these things, but they look at crash data and the likelihood of crashes, and they generally look at a cone-shaped area coming off of each runway. As you approach the runway, these cones become obviously much tighter in land area, and lack of better, it's more potential for potential issues because you're just lower to the ground. So that's why the C zone is a very large, more broader area, and that's just that height restrictions. This is done at, airports all around the US. But like I said, is Mr. Geisler saying that, within the last couple years here, there's been more of a push for this custom zoning, allowing each community can control their own zoning, because studies have indicated that the chance or risk of crash are 1 in X number of thousands.
Yeah, I thought.
So it's
they-
really
they-
kind of
they're-
just the city. It's the cities, if we make it more restrictive, or if we don't make it more restrictive, then the city's assuming liability, for lack of a better term.
Probably not, but MnDOT will probably not approve our request for custom zoning.
The one thing is that the city and would really trying to make the push on is for indemnification for the city, that if we do indeed are successful with custom zoning, that we are indemnified in case something does happen and get away from that liability standpoint. And that's something that's another tract that's being discussed more or less from different attorneys from each one of the associated communities here as well. I'm assuming people can still not see my PowerPoint presentation.
Just see your email screen.
See my email screen. Okay. Wow.
And I know we don't have to get into a big, long, I think this has been interesting just to kind of learn about it. I guess my gut instinct is I don't understand what the big deal would be to have custom zoning, unless there was an actual precedent or concern or legitimate issue that Hermantown's trying to avoid or something, but that's just my 2 cents.
And so what I'll do is we've got a PDF of this presentation. I'll send that out after this meeting this evening. I'd be happy if anybody has any individual questions, please send them to me. I'd respond to the entire group so you can see them that way. And, but yeah, let's just plan as well on the work session that we'll discuss this a little bit further as well. And at that point, we'll probably have a little bit more input from City Council also.
Perfect.
Good.
All right, moving on to number 8, communications. I'm not seeing any.
That's correct.
Number 9, commission member reports. Valerie Olet,
No report.
Samuel Clark,
No report.
Beth Winslow,
No report.
Counselor Geisler.
Just something that is happening this summer now is that the sewer line that's been under construction for, over a year is going to be done, and the trail will be paved. And so from the soccer park over to Ingwalls, you'll have a new paved trail that's going to run through the city, which will be kind of an interesting we've got some other trails and sidewalks, but kind of the first trail through the woods, if you will, to kind of connect some roads without going down the road. So I'm looking forward to that. Eric, I believe it's done by July 1st, correct?
That is correct, yes. That is a plan that we're operating under. We also have another section from Morris Thomas Road down to Keene Creek Park as well. That is going to be starting construction here in the next couple weeks. But
And
that's
then
also
we'll-
shooting in that same timeline.
Yep, and then we'll end up with a gap kind of between the Ingwalls property and Morris Thomas that I know Eric's working on a plan to connect that. So yeah, it won't be long. We'll get to Keens Creek Park all the way up to the soccer field, and then from there up, the sidewalks, and it'll be fun to see. So that was all. I wanted just to chime in and let everybody know where things were at with that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Geisler. And that brings us to the end of our sheet. We are looking for a motion to adjourn. It's currently 8:02.
Sam Clark, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are going to close this evening's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting at 8:02. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good
Great,
night.
Thank you for your time, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yep, thank you.